So, what happens when we combine Breath of the Wild with Link's Awakening?
I don't know.
I don't know either. We're about to find out.
Awesome.
Hello, everyone. I'm Ash, D-Class Hero.
I'm Car Dreamer. Just D-Class for now. I'm in the midst of changing identities.
Yeah, he has a bit of a midlife crisis again. But anyway, on to the point of this video. It was recently announced on Zelda Informer that there is a game in the works that's supposed to combine a Link's Awakening with a Breath of the Wild open world mechanic. Looking at the article from Zelda Informer, it's from the same team that made A Link Between Worlds and Triforce Heroes, which I think, let's start with the pros. I think that's a big pro in my book, because A Link Between Worlds was a phenomenal game. It was a great spiritual successor to A Link to the Past, which basically used the same world map, just slightly altered locations.
Well, since it was announced to be a direct sequel, it should.
Exactly, but it used the same map, and that's how it should be done if it's a direct sequel. Same timeline, same world, but the one thing about A Link Between Worlds was it was completely open. You could do any dungeon, any order, aside from the desert one, because you need a specific item that just took a bit of time to get. But like, tell me, what do you think of a Link's Awakening sequel or spiritual successor?
Well, that's the question, isn't it? Is it really a successor, or is it the same, more or less? Is it a full, fleshed out reboot / reimagining?
So, according to the article, it is a 3DS game title. And it's supposed to be either a remake or heavily inspired by A Link's Awakening. The article isn't very clear on which one it's going to lean more towards, which is kind of an issue in my opinion, because then we don't know if it's just going to be an HD remake like Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask, which, don't get me wrong, were phenomenal. They were phenomenal. But I don't feel like Link's Awakening should be one of those games. Because for one, those two games before it were 3D games.
True. Well, okay. My very first qualm with this is that it's on a handheld. For something that ambitious, I don't think it should be a handheld. I think this should be another Switch title. Second, I don't think those are the right developers. Do they make great Zelda games? No doubt. But they're developers of a 2D Link. If they want a Breath of the Wild feel and gameplay, go to the people who did Breath of the Wild.
But here's the thing. You could argue that A Link Between Worlds was very Breath of the Wild-esque before Breath of the Wild. It was an open world. You could go anywhere you want within the map. In any dungeon, any order. And the one thing with that game was, you could buy any of the dungeon items and get to any location. If it's that setup for a Link's Awakening-esque title, I'm okay with it, because originally A Link's Awakening was a handheld title.
Yeah, I guess it's just, to me, if you're really going to explore this island, if you're really going to go back there and really explore the world like you did, I would like to explore it Breath of the Wild style.
See,
no Lego. That was no Lego reference.
Really?
Yeah.
Really? You went that far?
Yeah.
All right.
I said wild style. How far did I have to go?
Fair enough. But I do agree. If it was a 3D title with Breath of the Wild world mechanics, I'd be fine with it. Quite frankly, I'd be happy with the game regardless, because I love The Link Between Worlds. It was one of my favorite games for the handheld. It definitely refreshed the Zelda formula for me, because up until then, a lot of Zelda games were very pipeline. Straightforward, dungeon A, B, C, and D. A Link Between Worlds, you can go to D, F, G, then A, then C, then B.
Which is about right for D-class spelling.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
So, well, here's why I'm saying what I'm saying. It's not the gameplay that I think would be bad.
Mm-hmm.
It's the way I'm envisioning it.
Okay.
So, Breath of the Wild. Well, it took me a while to fall to like Wind Waker art style. Breath of the Wild kind of draws a balance between Wind Waker and the real Link, realistic Link.
I would say
I'm okay with that.
I would say it's a happy medium between Twilight Princess 3D and Wind Waker, but more along the lines, it's pretty much the advanced version of Skyward Sword, which
Okay,
I love that. I
works.
love that art style particularly. That's one of my favorite games, despite everyone not liking it.
So, but here's my thing: like, when you think of Breath of the Wild and the way the environments unfolded before you, you could see them kind of unfold. Nothing to me, except using that engine, is going to be as majestic as like you're on this island exploring the woods, and you come out of the tropical forest or off the beach or whatever, and you approach the mountain out of the fog or whatever. You start seeing the mountain. You can pan up and see this egg on top of the mountain. That you're not going to capture that as well on a handheld, nor using any engine but Breath of the Wild.
I agree that having the Breath of the Wild engine would be the best case scenario for it. But mind you, look how long it took for Breath of the Wild to get made and flushed out. Because, quite frankly, there are very few bugs in that game, if any at all, because they spend so much work on it. Not like a lot of games nowadays are half-assed and just put out there, we gotta buy the remaining content.
Well, they could have gotten it out quicker if they weren't busy putting 90% of the resources on porting their Wii U titles.
That's a fair point. That is a fair point. But they put a lot of effort in the Breath of the Wild.
Oh,
And that's
they
one.
did.
And quite frankly, I gotta get myself a Switch so I can get the game because I'm not going back to a Wii U. Unlike someone here, you got a Wii U.
Yes, but I'm keeping all games reporting for the Switch.
Fair enough. Now looking at Majora's Mask and Ocarina of Time 3D, they did a great job pouring that over and fleshing out the 3D models and everything. So if they were to do a Link's Awakening in that art style, that degree of care, I'd be fine with it. Because they went so far as to the Ocarina of Time 3D game to keep the bugs in there for speedrunners, like in the original game. Like that's keeping it true to itself.
Well, it's easy to keep the bugs in when all you did was port over code and put the 3D paint on it.
You're not wrong.
But,
But isn't that like one of the best things about a game that's charm? The bugs are so beloved that people want them in there.
well, yes, and I'm not going to argue that. When it comes to the art style of the game, I hope they do it either Skyward Sword or Breath of the Wild art style, because as much as, and that's odd coming from me because I will always prefer the realistic versions of Link. I will always prefer Ocarina of Time up to Twilight Princess. I want those Links more than anything, but when it comes to what's involved in Link's Awakening, if they keep in all the cameos, guest stars, whatever.
See, I would love that to death.
I don't think I need to see. I think it would be ruined to see, say, a realistic War or Goomba.
See, that's also part of the big thing, is that the cameos are kind of the main focus of this, of why I think an HD remake would be fine
Head for the point
for A
marked on
Link's
the map
Awakening,
on your sheet of
because really it's just updating the graphics a bit and keeping everything the same. You could achieve that with, say, the Wind Waker art style and have those cameos looking fine. Now, if you made them hyper-realistic, say, like, up to Twilight Princess Ocarina of Time back in their heyday, it would just seem kind of odd for certain characters. Because think about Wart, for example. I think Wart's the best example for this one because he's a big character. Look how much detail they had to put into making him look.
Ocarina of Time I can see because Mario 64. It's when you get into the hyper-realism of Twilight Princess where you're going to have a problem. Because there's no Mario that looks like that.
You're not wrong. I'll give you that much. But honestly, if they made like Mario Odyssey in terms of that artistic design or direction, I think it'd be fine for like the cameos because they would be Mario style. A lot of those characters are from Mario, But we also gotta keep it in the Zelda art style as well, to the point where Link doesn't look like he's from the dark side of gaming that we don't discuss.
Well, I'll discuss it, but that's another video. My biggest concern, since you mentioned game charm, is even if they redo this game, and don't get me wrong, I don't doubt Nintendo can make the game good from a gameplay point of view, from everything, from a story point of view. I think it'll be a good Zelda game. But given what Link's Awakening was, and how key the charm, the story, the nostalgia of Link's Awakening is for it to be as successful as it was,
It is one.
can even a reimagined remake live up to what Link's Awakening was?
Link's Awakening is one of my favorite Zelda titles for the handheld. And that's mainly because it has so much charm.
It's one of my favorite, period. Not just handheld. It is one of the best Zeldas. The puzzles were amazing. The story was deep and dark and made you... It still can make you think because nothing is 100% explained.
Oh, yeah.
And it ties into so much more of not just Zelda mythos, but Nintendo mythos in general. I don't know if you'll capture that same... If you do a 3D open world, obviously the puzzles are not going to be the same.
No, that's a given. Now, but here's the thing. A Link Between Worlds is it's kind of the bridge between it's a link between worlds of gaming for this specific topic. Because A Link to the Past was, a top-down, same art style as, A Link's Awakening. But they were able to port that over and advance things and change things up to make A Link Between Worlds. And then we end up this, in my opinion, a masterpiece of a game, taking inspiration from an older game in their, lineup. If they are able to do something like that with Link's Awakening, I will be happy with it. The game is confirmed to be a handheld. That's the one thing the article has said. They haven't said whether it's a HD remake or if it's just going to be heavily inspired by. Now, if it's heavily inspired by Link's Awakening, and they go for the Link Between Worlds route, I'll be fine with it. I'll actually be very excited because of what that game brought me in terms of enjoyment and entertainment. But if they manage to do a HD remake of a top-down game like that, I'm a little bit concerned because then they gotta change a lot of things up.
Well, see, I would think if they do the top-down view like A Link Between Worlds, that'll be easier for them to stay true to the original. However, then I don't really see how inspired by Breath of the Wild it would be.
Exactly. Now, if they're just doing for the whole, you can do any dungeon in 80 order, I think, okay, then it's Breath of the Wild-esque. Not open world like Breath of the Wild, where you can go, you see that mountain? You can climb that mountain. You see that river? You can go in that river. You see that pot? You can definitely smash that pot.
Is that really Breath of the Wild inspired? Because technically, could you or could you not do the dungeons in whatever order you wanted to a varying degree in the first Zelda?
This is true, but after that first Zelda game, how often did Zelda stick with the whole theme of going, okay, dungeon A, B, and C for a story?
They got more linear as they went.
Exactly.
A Link to the Past, if you knew how to do it, you could skip around a little.
A little bit. Not a lot.
But it was fun.
It was. A Link to the Past is one of my top Zelda games.
That is... Yeah, that and Link's Awakening are tied for first. There's no choosing between the two.
I don't know. I love the story of Skyward Sword. That's definitely on the top of the list for me. It's definitely up there. Now, granted, that game was arguably the most linear of any game in the Zelda series possible. Because you only had maybe 6 dungeons, and they were literally 3 dungeons twice.
That sounds disappointing. I haven't even played it yet.
The story's phenomenal, though. It explains so much for the Zelda mythos, but that's off topic. But that brings up the point linearity versus open world exploration, and that's my biggest thing with Zelda is I think adventure game, I think Zelda, but you know what? I think adventure, I think okay, can I go this way, that way? Can I go where I want? And A Link Between Worlds is a good example of that. Breath of the Wild is the best example for that Nintendo. For Nintendo. Now look at Skyrim. You can do wherever you want in Skyrim. You can go anywhere you want, but stories gonna follow a linear path for certain things.
Yeah.
But you could travel where you want. You can go to dungeons that are not necessarily key to the story as you want. But
We pretty much discussed what the pros and cons of what format they should take.
yeah.
So, that being all said, what are some of the things that you want to see, regardless of what format? What are some of the things you want to see in the game?
Okay, for me, I'd be 100% happy if it was a sequel to Link's Awakening. Personally. Because they do that, make it like A Link Between Worlds, give you full exploration option there, where you can do any dungeon in any order on the island and travel it however you want. I will be all in. But the question I bring up next is in-game items. Because the only reason why A Link Between Worlds was able to do that is because they literally had an NPC character in the game open up an item shop in your house where you could purchase, or rent dungeon items, then go to the respective dungeon that they match with.
That is the pushiest salesman I have ever heard of.
You'd like him.
Yeah.
He is literally, spoilers, he is alternate Link. He is the alternate Dark World version of Link. Or low roll, correction.
Sold. Done.
Yeah. It's the best part, because he's actually Link that talks. But, like, that's my biggest concern, because the only reason why Link Between Worlds was able to do what it did is because you had the item shop. Now, this is a handheld, mind you. Breath of the Wild, you can do wherever you want because you have the ability to climb. You have the ability to finally jump. And you can collect items from, enemies, stores, just salvaging. Or just find random chests. I want that option in this handheld.
I want to make a side note. Link has jumped before.
Do you have a designated button for jumping? That's not a backflip or a side jump.
The Adventures of Link. The Four Sword Adventure on GameCube. Both of them have designated jumps.
But was that because of an item like the Rock's Cape or the Rock's Feather?
No.
I don't consider that.
Link's Awakening just jump. And both of that, not Link's Awakening, sorry. Link's Adventure or Adventures of Link, whatever. But that was designated jumps. Same with the GameCube Four Sword Adventure. Those are designated jumps.
Yeah, but I'm talking about like in 3D environment though.
Okay, fair.
Because you could try and make a jump in Breath of the Wild to make it to a ledge and make that jump. Or,
Fair.
you could slide down the cliff and still catch yourself. I want that option in the game. I want to be able to explore like a random cave, find an in-game item that can help me out in any of the dungeons. That's what I want. I want the Breath of the Wild experience in a handheld, but I also want the looting option where I can find some kind of random item from an NPC, a chest, or a shop that will help me out in a dungeon later on.
So you want a little bit more traditional RPG elements in a Link game.
A little bit, but that's what they did with Breath of the Wild, and that's why I love it so much.
Fair.
Because they gave you that more RPG adventure element. The ability to loot, from your enemies that you defeated is a big RPG element, but also part of an adventure. Like, you're not going to just pass up, like, a really strong item from a boss you just defeated or, a random enemy you found. You're not just going to leave that item there and not use it. You're going to take that crap and, just go at, like, some dungeon, just tear it apart.
Okay.
What about you? What would you like to see in this game?
Deeper story development, first and foremost. And that's odd comment, given how I feel about Link's Awakening, because it is such a deep... And it just depends on what form they take. If this is a sequel, then I'm just going to leave the statement as general, because I don't know how they're going to do a sequel. I can't fathom how they're going to do a sequel.
See, I agree with that because it's such an iconic story, and the way they ended it, there's no way for them to really build off from that ending, aside from it just rehapping all over again.
Which would kind of be a real douchey move on the Wind Waker, or on the whale's part to do that to Link again.
Asshole.
But at the same time, also, I feel like that Link has had his adventures.
That Link needs a fucking vacation, sir.
He was on one!
No, he wasn't.
He was
he got shipwrecked.
Okay, no, but that's my point. But wasn't he? He was away training or doing something. He was not in Hyrule when that happened.
This is, I believe, in terms of timeline, the Link to the Past link that got transported to Holodrum and all those places from Oracle of Ages and Seasons, which is 2 different lands, mind you, and then went sailing back to Hyrule, got shipwrecked, and that became Link's Awakening. That same Link, 4 different adventures.
Oh, that poor Link. He has to be like...
He
needs to be a god. Like
he is a god.
No, I mean, like, the deities need to have looked down and go, alright, you are now the god Link.
Look, if anything, he is the fierce DT Link in a different timeline. Some weird...
What if that mask is actually his persona?
That'd be cool as hell.
Anyway, okay, off topic. So, if this is... that's another discussion.
Oh, yeah.
If this is going to be a remake, then I can give specific examples of what I would like to see as the
Okay,
story.
so how about this? Start off with the remake and then sequel. What would you see from A and B?
Well, like I said, sequel, I can't name anything. Because I don't know how they're going to do it. It's too broad, so let's just say deeper story.
Okay.
If it's a remake, I want to be able to explore all over the island, like outside edge. I want this not just to be, you could explore a little bit on the left and down at the bottom where you find your sword, whatever. No, I want to be able to explore 360 degrees outside of this island, as well as in it, and find additional maybe clues or Easter eggs to imply that some of this is dreams.
So you kind of want the, like, okay, since start of the game, they're kind of hinting it's a dream.
Exactly, yeah. And
Okay.
I know
okay,
that's
I get
hinted
behind
about
that.
Marion with, because he thinks she's Zelda, whatever.
Yeah.
I get that. And there's everything, I leave everything that they already did in, but I would like some more clues, signs with the island itself.
So more tongue-in-cheek stuff.
It doesn't have to be. Those are always fun too. It doesn't have to be. It just other things to imply, like maybe not necessarily tongue-in-cheek humor, but let's say you find an offshoot cave or something like other things from his that
Adventures.
remind him of his other adventures, things that shouldn't be there.
See, I always personally like the subtle hints where it's okay. It's like you get through farther in the story. It's like, oh wow, that, you know what? Going back to this thing, it makes a lot more sense that this was hinted as a dream. I did not realize that till now. I always like those hints because then you're more surprised than anything else.
Yeah,
That's me though.
or maybe even a secret dungeon where it will play out kind of similar to the final boss to the Windfish, but you have to relive in a more, all reimagined now battles, because this will be maybe Breath of the Wild 3D,
Yep.
but which would be super awesome, but maybe some of the more epic battles from from previous adventures that this particular Link has gone through.
As an example, look at the Oracle of Seasons, Oracle of Ages game. If you had the link cable for the Game Boy, way back when, and connected those two games together after beating them, you got an extra dungeon where you got to fight Ganon, revived, from A Link to the Past.
Nice.
And that was something you would not get outside of beating both games and connecting them, which I liked. That was a nice little tidbit right there. So something like that for, say, for an
And that
HD...
is canon, too.
That is canon, actually. For an HD remake, would be fine for me. Because in terms of that timeline, that was the final fight with Ganon. Well, the true Ganon. The one from A Link Between Worlds was kind of like his power was put in someone else, but that's something else.
But yeah, I would like to see just some of his some other classic battles, maybe even one, not one with Ganon though. No Ganon battles, because you're going to do that with the Windfish.
Yeah, that's basically what you're.
But I would like to just see some other enemies that necessarily don't appear in Link's Awakening that were classic Link battles.
So it's maybe something from Link to the Past, or maybe from Oracle of Ages or Seasons, something like from that specific Link's timeline.
Exactly. I would like to explore maybe a deeper relationship with Marion.
I would like that.
Not necessarily romantic,
Emotional.
but a much more emotional. Maybe he gets to be close friends with her quick. I wouldn't mind maybe some stuff with just finding her throughout the island, reminiscing, kind of talking out loud. Maybe even talking to maybe he comes up to her a few times while she's talking to the owl.
Yeah.
Because she's aware that the island's a dream and helping him, so maybe she knows the owl is maybe a representation of the windfish's subconscious, and she's talking to it, understanding. It'd be nice to get more background and lore by walking into these conversations.
See, I would like the little things here and there where it's not necessarily the owl, but like her kind of like, it seems like she's talking to herself, but she's talking to the windfish that's asleep. And I always like those little things there where they're talking to, basically, when it sounds like they're having a conversation with themselves. Because you get more idea of how their personality is, what they're thinking about, what their concerns are, but they're not strictly talking just the air. They're talking to something specific that may be answering them that we cannot hear.
That would be interesting. The reason I would prefer the owl is because...
It's specific.
Well, the owl, not only if it's a representation of the windfish, an owl is also a symbol of wisdom.
That is also true.
It would imply the windfish is aware of maybe something greater, and if Marion is on point and on a higher... She has a higher understanding. I mean, what is Marion to be self-aware within that world? It would be interesting to get really kind of deep without getting too convolutedly philosophical, but it'd been really neat to kind of get a little bit, just hint at deeper things like that.
Here's the one thing, and the one thing I love about Link's Awakening is the psychology of it all. And
yeah.
I want to leave that for another video in of itself, the psychology of Link's Awakening. I'm going to do that later on at some point. I need to do a lot of research first, mind you, because it's all a dream.
We'll come back with a PhD.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Hey, I took a couple psychology classes. Leave me alone.
I took it in high school.
I took it in college. Get out of here. But point is, if Marion is self-aware as a pigmentation within the dream of the windfish, what does she represent is a big thing. I know we mentioned this in our Link's Awakening video a while back, but the reason I asked this is because I kind of want them to explore that subject a little bit.
I do too. That's what I mean by deeper story. There's so much they can explore with all of that.
I would kind of like them to explore the id, ego, and super ego of the windfish itself within the dream. Because obviously the ego is the owl.
Okay.
Where it tries to balance the super ego, which may be Marion. But while the id is the nightmare.
I don't think it would be a balance with Marion.
No?
Well, Marion's trying to help the owl, so what's there to balance?
That's the super ego. The balance is super ego and the owl working together to prevent the id from taking over the dream.
Fair enough. Okay.
So you see what I mean with that?
Yeah.
Okay,
so the id isn't even just a nightmare; it's the island itself.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. Because the id is just primal instinct. But one thing I do want to see, like you mentioned it before, was a 360-degree exploration of the island. Mind you, in the original game, anyone who tried to explore beyond the island would end up back at the island because, you know, either the reef, the mist, or whatever they said was the cause of it. I want to see that. I want to experience that, where you go into the mist or the ocean by either sailing, swimming, or whatever, and end up back at the island. And that's because it's the dream. That's something I would like to see, but you still get to explore the island free will.
That works.
Alright, so you said you couldn't think of anything specific for a sequel.
Yeah, what do you do for, like, I don't... Because we already discussed if they put the same Link through this crap, the windfish is just a jerk.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
I mean, really. And then not just a windfish. Nintendo, for shame.
I mean, honestly, he's one of my favorite Links. And what if we actually explored... See, this is the dream of the windfish. So what if it's a sequel, it's not necessarily the same dream, but the same windfish going to a different, I guess world, so to say. Like, there's the dark world. What if there's a dream world where you get free exploration between... Like, oh, I got a perfect example. Mario and Luigi Dream Team.
Never played it.
So, basically, Mario has to go into Luigi's dreams, and whatever he does outside and inside the dream affects the other. I like that mechanic in a Link's Awakening sequel, if they were to do one. What you do in the conscious world to subject A of the dream affects the dream itself.
That would be interesting. I can't disagree with that. I would have to see that explored. And it's funny you mentioned the Dark World because I was just thinking, what if the game is not just... What if the game is part sequel, part prequel?
Into what sense?
What if you get to see where the nightmares came from? What if... Because there is a Dark World. We've already established.
But here's the...
What if the Windfish obviously plays his dreams and connects with people?
Right.
We even hypothesized Mario. Because of Mario 2, the US version. So, what if he did it to Dark Link? And that's why he's now strapped in the nightmare. It backfired.
Oh, that'd be interesting. I would not argue that. I'd actually like to see that.
Or Shadow Link, I mean to say.
Shadow Link, Dark Link, more or less, depending on which game it is, he's a different personification of Link, whether it's his inner dark fears or he's just a shadow, evil version of Link itself. But that all depends on which game and what power source it's stemming from. One thing I do like what you said about a pre-sequel, so to speak, but here's the thing.
Past 100 years.
Dark Link, Shadow Link, depending on whoever, I'm going to say
The beast.
Shadow Link being as that's the dark
Its true power. This
dark
world
side of
is
Link
dead.
himself.
Okay.
Through gains power, that's a thing that's been confirmed. That would explain why it's a nightmare. But the question is why? Why would he choose to
Now
draw
then,
that link into the dream itself? Because
What if he didn't really... Well, if you're going by... Okay, no, continue. Because you're going by the fact that it's just the
Before
darker
it's
side of
too
the
late.
actual Link and not an alternate world version.
exactly, that's what I'm trying to say. Because, mind you, this is I would say a divine creature. I would say the Windfish.
I would say he's definitely part of divinity.
It's definitely a divine creature.
He's not maybe one of the celestial guys,
No,
but
no,
he's
no,
definitely a demi.
Definitely a demi-divine beast at the very least. Because we've dealt with divine creatures in the Link multiverse several times before. Twilight Princess is a good example because you had to find the guardian spirits of the villages and all that stuff. This definitely falls into that same line of power, being able to draw you into a dream. But such a creature would be able to tell what is good and evil. So I don't see how that would work, but if it did happen that way, I'd be interested to see the story that unfolds leading to that.
Maybe it's not the Windfish that needed to wake up. Maybe it was all a test for Link to finally... That Link needed to overcome his darker self to do whatever his next mission was.
You know what'd be really funny? And kind of messed up at the same time? Because of this dream, it was the Windfish trying to keep Link from drowning when he fell asleep during the storm.
Wow.
It just got dark.
Which technically would not have happened if the Windfish just didn't interfere.
Exactly! It just got dark.
Wow.
But,
Wow. I didn't really... So I just wanted to toss you about. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to really hurt you. Stay alive.
I would like for... I would be interested in seeing a sequel. I'd be interested to see how that developed. But I also wouldn't mind an HD remake if it's a 3D world. I'd be very interested in both, to be honest. I don't really see a downside to it, considering there's been very few Zelda games that have disappointed me. In terms of a good story. Gameplay, in terms of linearity, that's different, in my opinion. Like, a game can be linear, but still have a great story, and I can still enjoy it. A Link to the Past is a good example. That game is a little linear in and of itself, but it's definitely a great game because the story is good, the characters are fun, there's a lot of side
The
quests.
Adventures of Link is very linear, but a great story.
Exactly. So it's supposed to be more open world, like Link Between Worlds. We know this much.
Ooh.
In the article, it says it's either a HD remake of the game, A Link's Awakening, or heavily inspired by.
How HD can you make on a 3DS using an 8-bit game? I mean, really.
I mean, look, they were able to make Majora's Mask and Ocarina of Time look phenomenal in 3D on the 3DS. So I have no
But
doubt.
I don't call that HD.
Fair enough. I can see what you mean in terms of,
Technical terms.
but in terms of compared to how it was before in terms of resolution, there's a night and day difference. So
Okay.
I have no doubt graphically they can do a great job with it. If it's like,
Oh, no doubt, no doubt.
I have no doubt in that sense. More along lines, it comes down to what new and old game mechanics are they keeping, how open the world is going to be, and whether or not it's a sequel or a remake.
I definitely want to see more. I would like to see more tongue-in-cheek references too. Like if you can explore more caves, just even their open little caves to have Easter egg. Just go in, maybe see like Pikmin drawing on the wall. Nintendo has developed their other franchises since that game. It'd be nice to kind of see them. Maybe a Kirby reference somewhere.
Oh yeah, like for all we know,
No, there is a Kirby rap. Sorry, you fight little evil Kirbys. I'm sorry.
exactly. And you know what? Minish Cap is a good example. They never revisit anything towards that game because that's very early in the Zelda multiverse mythos because it's very early in the timeline. They could put Olimar in there and, tongue in cheek say, "Oh, he's a Pikmin." No, he's not.
That would be cool.
Right? They definitely have tons of characters they can bring into it. I'd be very interested to see how they develop it, to be honest. It's supposed to come out in the second or third quarter of this year.
So one last hypothesis.
Sure.
What if, in this sequel, the story really emphasizes Hero of Time? What if, in some way, he is forced or made or has to team up with the other timeline links in some way?
See, you know what? They did something very similar to that. It was called Hyrule Warriors.
Which is non-canon.
It's not canon, and I wish it was canon, because you know what? I would love a multi-link team-up where it's not the same link split up into 4 characters. Because each link, despite being the same design, of similar design, to near mirroring each other, all their own unique personality quirks, despite not saying a word.
I can get behind that.
And I would love, say, a multi-timeline
This
game.
would have to be at the the way I'm thinking of it, this would have to be at the ultimate end timeline. Because what if the purpose of not only doing this is to reset everything to one single timeline? There is no more. This ends the Link multiverse.
So, that's another video we're going to do for another discussion.
Crisis on Infinite Length.
Oh my god. You know what? I play it. That's gonna be another topic for another discussion, honestly, because I definitely want to explore more of that in terms of discussion. Anything else you want to say?
I think we've covered it.
All right. So, Link's Awakening, HD or remake? Let's discuss. I want to hear in the comments below. Would you want to see a remake or a sequel of Link's Awakening? Because according to this article, they're not really clear on which way it's going to be.
And I also want to know, do you prefer a handheld version, or would you like to see this as a Switch title?
Now, quite honestly, I would love to see a Link's Awakening as a Switch title.
So good.
It'd be amazing.
To quote Little CD, so good.
Yeah. But in the comments below, please tell us which one would you like to see. With
And subscribe.
Like and subscribe, as always. Harass us if you want.
Or him.
I'm
Him.
used to it. I work 2 jobs. I get harassed all the time.
It's true.
But anyway, I'm Ash Hero,
I'm Car Dreamer.
and we're signing out. Catch you guys in the next video.
I'll see you.